The hearing room crackles with tension.
Absolutely.
Cameras
Looking
click
forward
like
to our
thunder,
chat.
flashes slicing through the air.
It's great to
Kash
connect
Patel
like
leans
this.
forward, his
Absolutely.
voice
Looking
smooth
forward to our
but
chat.
dripping with condescension. He smirks, tossing a line meant to sting, meant to provoke. The crowd shifts, gasps, murmurs, the uneasy shuffle of people sensing something big is about to happen. But across the table, Jasmine Crockett doesn't move. Her face remains calm, unreadable. She doesn't blink. The silence stretches, sharp as glass. Patel waits for a reaction, the smugness fading as her composure deepens. It's not weakness he's facing, it's control. That quiet, immovable kind of power that makes noise look small. The room seems to tilt toward her, drawn into her gravity. The narrator's voice cuts through the tension. In a world where noise dominates truth, one woman's calm would silence an entire room. A single camera pans in on her eyes, steady, unwavering. You can almost feel the heartbeat of the nation watching, waiting, wondering who will flinch first. And just when it seems the moment might pass like any other political clash, something shifts, something you can't unsee. Because what happens next doesn't just flip the narrative, it makes even Patel supporters question everything. In the weeks leading up to that hearing, Washington had become a stage where civility went to die. Every committee meeting turned into a performance, every question a chance to go viral. Clips of shouting matches flooded social media, proof that outrage had replaced reasoning as the new political currency. In that chaos, Jasmine Crockett's calm stood out like a rare signal cutting through static. Her steady tone, her refusal to be baited, began to earn quiet respect, not just from supporters, but from those exhausted by the noise. Across the divide, Kash Patel thrived on that same noise. Once a behind-the-scenes operator, he'd learned that spectacle sold better than substance. Television hits, podcast circuits, dramatic confrontations. His confidence grew with every headline. To his followers, he was the fighter who never backed down. To his critics, a man addicted to his own spotlight. He carried that armor of arrogance into every hearing, convinced composure was weakness. So when their names appeared on the same witness list, insiders knew sparks would fly. Two paths, one built on calm truth, one on chaotic defense, were destined to collide under the fluorescent lights of Washington. But before that moment unfolded, Patel had no idea he was walking into a trap built not with anger, but composure. Kash Patel had built his name not through quiet service, but through the art of spectacle. Every public appearance felt rehearsed, calculated to project control. He had mastered the rhythm of confrontation. Interrupt at the right moment, laugh when cornered, double down when proven wrong. It wasn't conversation, it was performance. To his admirers, that defiance looked like strength. To others, it was theater in a suit. He understood the modern political economy. Outrage was currency, and he spent it freely. Talk shows, press hits, viral soundbites. Patel knew how to feed the machine. His confidence wasn't born of conviction, but of repetition. The more he spoke, the more untouchable he believed himself to be. Behind the smirk was a man who had confused volume for influence and swagger for certainty. In past hearings, his style was predictable: control the tempo, corner the opponent, dominate the narrative. He would lean back in his chair, arms crossed, voice dripping with certainty, as if every word from his mouth were fact. The smirk became his armor, the interruption his shield, and for years it worked. Critics fumed, networks replayed the clips, and Patel's brand grew stronger. But that confidence had a price. The louder he became, the more fragile his authority grew. Beneath the bravado was an unspoken fear that one day someone would refuse to play his game, someone who wouldn't rise to his bait or match his aggression, someone whose stillness could expose his noise for what it was. insecurity dressed as strength. He'd faced critics before, fiery, flustered, easy to unnerve, but never someone like Jasmine. Her calm composure wasn't weakness, it was precision, and it would dismantle his defenses, one measured word at a time. Long before the cameras and headlines, Jasmine Crockett was a voice in crowded courtrooms, defending those the system forgot. As a public defender, she learned that justice wasn't always loud. It was patient, persistent, often fought one breath at a time. While others sought attention, she sought fairness. She knew the faces of struggle, mothers working double shifts, young men fighting for second chances, families holding on to hope in a system stacked against them. Those faces became her compass, guiding her long before she stepped onto the national stage. Her rise wasn't powered by money or celebrity, but by community. In her early campaigns, she walked neighborhoods most politicians avoided, knocking on doors, listening more than she spoke. People remember that about her, the way she'd pause, look them in the eye, and actually hear what they said. There was no spectacle, no showmanship, just conviction, carried in calm. In Congress, that same grounded energy set her apart. While tempers flared around her, Jasmine kept her composure, even as opponents mistook her restraint for softness. But they didn't understand. Composure wasn't surrender, it was strategy. She was the calm in a storm that others mistook for weakness, until the thunder answered. Reporters began to take note of her measured tone, her deliberate phrasing, the way her silences carried more power than someone else's outrage. When asked once how she managed to stay unshaken amid chaos, she replied simply, "If I lose my peace, I lose my purpose." That line became something of a mantra for her supporters, a quiet creed in a noisy time. Her colleagues described her as steady, even when provoked, a presence that seemed to remind everyone of what public service was supposed to mean. Every challenge only deepened that calm. Every insult rolled off her like rain off marble. The hearing room was a living thing now, breathing, restless, waiting to see who would break first. Patel's voice cut through the hum like a blade, sharp and deliberate. Every word was dipped in sarcasm, delivered with that familiar smirk that told the audience he thought he had already won. Staffers exchanged uneasy glances, their eyes darting between the two figures at the table. Everyone could feel it, the air thickening, the storm drawing closer. Crockett didn't move. Her hands rested lightly on the desk, her gaze fixed but soft. When Patel spoke over her, she didn't raise her voice. She let the interruptions hang, empty and echoing, until the silence became unbearable. He filled that silence again and again, louder each time, as if volume could make up for the ground he was losing. You could see the shift in real time. Her stillness became the mirror he couldn't stand to face. The more composed she was, the more his control unraveled. Reporters in the back began scribbling faster. A few heads turned toward her, sensing that something was about to change. Then she spoke. Low, measured, clear. Every syllable landed with precision. No rush, no anger. Her voice was the quiet antidote to his chaos. The contrast was electric. Where he flailed, she focused. Where he performed, she reasoned. A murmur rippled through the audience, the kind that follows truth when it cuts deeper than expected. Patel blinked, forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes, and tried to speak again. Tried to reclaim control. But the room was no longer his. And just when it seemed Patel had regained footing, Jasmine leaned in and changed everything. The pause before she spoke felt endless. The air seemed to hold its breath. Patel had just delivered another jab, something about competence wrapped in condescension and laced with the kind of grin that said he thought the show was his. The microphones hummed softly. All eyes turned to Jasmine. And then, with perfect calm, she began. "Mr. Patel," she said, her tone almost gentle, It's interesting how much time you've spent questioning other people's integrity when your own record keeps doing the talking. The room froze. Her cadence was slow, deliberate. Each syllable weighted like a stone dropped into still water. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Every word carried the authority of someone who'd spent a lifetime fighting for people who never had the microphone. He tried to interrupt. She didn't flinch. "I'll finish my point," she said quietly, not as a request, but a command dressed in composure. The audience murmured. Cameras zoomed in. Then came the dismantling, step by step, line by line. She cited dates, testimony, inconsistencies in his statements. She wove logic and empathy into something surgical. "You talk about accountability," she said, "but accountability starts with honesty. If we can't be honest about our own actions, what right do we have to judge anyone else's?" Each pause between her sentences built pressure, like a drumbeat the audience didn't realize they were marching to. Patel's smirk began to fade, his fingers tightening around the pen in front of him. He opened his mouth, but no words came. Her gaze never left him. "The difference between us," she said softly, "is that I don't need to raise my voice to make a point. Truth carries its own volume." The narrator's voice slipped in over the moment, echoing her line like a heartbeat. Truth carries its own volume. And that's when it happened. The room erupted. Applause rolled through the chamber, loud, spontaneous, uncontrollable. Even a few of Patel's usual allies couldn't help but nod, almost despite themselves. Cameras caught the flicker of realization on his face. This wasn't just a bad moment. It was a shift in power. Social media lit up within minutes. Clips spread across platforms under hashtags like composed and correct, hashtag Crockett effect, and hashtag calm wins. On-screen captions read, "She didn't shout, she didn't bend, she just owned the moment." Commentators replayed the exchange in disbelief, voices overlapping in digital praise. "You can feel it," one anchor said. "This wasn't politics, it was poise." Tweets poured in from journalists, activists, even late-night hosts. "That's how you handle arrogance with elegance," one viral post declared. Another read, "My daughter watched this and said, 'That's power.'" As the applause continued in the hearing room, Patel tried to smile, tried to laugh it off, but the cameras caught it all. The twitch at the corner of his mouth, the discomfort behind his eyes. The narrative had flipped. He wasn't the provocateur in control anymore. He was the man undone by calm. Crockett leaned back slightly, the faintest smile touching her lips. She didn't gloat. She didn't need to. The sound of the applause carried what words no longer could. The sound of respect, earned in real time. The narrator returned one final time. "In a world where chaos is mistaken for strength, composure is the quiet revolution." But as the applause echoed, something even bigger was happening, far beyond that hearing room. The clip spread like wildfire. Within an hour, it was everywhere, on phones, feeds, timelines. The moment Jasmine Crockett leaned in and dismantled Kash Patel's bravado had become the internet's new obsession. On Twitter, threads broke down her composure frame by frame, users analyzing the micro-expressions, the tone shifts, the mastery of restraint. "This is how you hold power accountable," one post read, shared over 500,000 times. On TikTok, the remix culture went into overdrive. Creators stitched her line, "Truth carries its own volume," into cinematic edits, set to swelling orchestral tracks. Some turned it into a motivational soundbite, overlaying images of young women in boardrooms, classrooms, protests. The comments filled with fire emojis and praise. "Queen energy. Calm is the new clapback." Even cable networks couldn't resist. Morning shows replayed the moment in slow motion, panelists half in awe, half in denial. "It's rare," one commentator admitted, "to see grace actually win the day in politics." Others tried to spin it, calling her composure rehearsed. But even that critique felt hollow. Because the people watching knew the truth. They'd seen authenticity, not choreography. Celebrities chimed in. A-list actors, activists, athletes. Each shared the clip with captions like, "This is leadership." One post from a Grammy winner read simply, "This is power." And in the quiet corners of the internet, the impact hit differently. A mother posted, "I showed this to my daughter. That's what strength looks like." A teacher wrote, "Played this for my students. Told them, don't match anger with anger. Match it with purpose." Across feeds, across politics, a strange consensus emerged. She had changed the temperature of discourse, if only for a moment. Calm had gone viral. But beneath the trending hashtags lay a deeper question. Why did calm truth feel so revolutionary in today's America? When the noise faded and the feed slowed down, what lingered wasn't the confrontation, it was the composure. Jasmine Crockett's calm didn't just win a moment, it restored something many had forgotten could still exist in public life: dignity. In a time when shouting has become strategy and outrage a form of currency, her restraint felt almost radical. She didn't meet chaos with chaos. She didn't trade insult for insult. She showed that control can be louder than fury, that grace can expose arrogance more clearly than any argument ever could. It wasn't about being perfect or passive. It was about power that doesn't need to perform. Power that listens, pauses, and speaks only when the words carry purpose. In that hearing room, she reminded a weary audience of something essential. America still listens when authenticity speaks softly but firmly. Her victory was not in the takedown, but in the tone. It was proof that truth, when delivered with dignity, can cut through the loudest noise. And beyond the headlines, that message rippled quietly through classrooms, offices, living rooms, where people saw themselves in her restraint, her patience, her unshakable focus. We all face our own Patel moments, times when calm must speak louder than chaos. And in those moments, dignity is our greatest defense. And as the applause faded, one truth remained. This wasn't the end of a debate. It was the beginning of a movement. The screen replays the final moments, the standing applause, Patel frozen in disbelief, Crockett offering only a quiet nod of acknowledgement. The sound fades, replaced by the narrator's voice, measured, resonant, reflective. In a time when loudness dominates, we witnessed something rare, calm that conquers. One woman reminded a nation that dignity is not weakness, it's the highest form of strength. If you believe that composure still matters, share this story. Clips of audience reactions, comments, and retweets flash by like heartbeat pulses, proof that truth still travels fast when it feels real. The narrator continues, voice soft but certain. Tell us what composure under pressure means to you, because every act of calm courage moves us closer to the world we want to build. Then the final line lands. Simple, cinematic, resolute. Subscribe for more moments where truth stands tall, even when the world shouts.